Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we shall now begin the interactive dialogue with a special rapporteur on the implications for human rights of the environmentally sound management and disposal of hazardous substances and wastes. The list of speakers will close in 15 minutes. Thank you, and I give the floor to Franciscans International.
Thank you, Madam President. We welcome the report of the Special Rapporteur and we concur with his recommendation to ground policy, law and regulation making on independent scientific evidence, including underlying data publicly available. Independent, impartial and accessible environmental impact assessments based on scientific evidence are key elements to prevent human rights and environmental disasters such as the ones in Mariana and Brumadinho, Brazil, whose victims are still fighting for justice and reparation. These cases evidence the importance of reliable and independent scientific evidence for the determination of damages and harm and thus for reparation. We are also deeply concerned that many COVID-19 recovery plans are envisaging flexibilization of environmental licensing. In Brazil, the Bill on Environmental Licensing proposes to get rid of the obligation to conduct any environmental or human rights impact assessments when granting environmental licenses on indigenous and traditional lands. This law would also weaken public participation and expressly exempt some activities from requiring a licensing process. In light of the concerns on the situation in Brazil, what role does the Special Rapporteur see for independent scientific evidence in environmental licensing and in environmental and human rights impact assessments, and what's the Rapporteur's view on the flexibilization of environmental norms during the current pandemic? Thank you.
Franciscans International asks about what can the governments do in implementing the precautionary principle. I would point out that assessments of alternatives is a very important point, because environmental and health assessments provide the information and the evidence that is needed to overcome willful ignorance. It also talks about flexibility of norms. Regression is perhaps the better or more stronger word in standards of protection, which is prescribed by international human rights law.